Imagine a child trips and scrapes their knee on the playground.
Tears well up in their eyes and a loud wail escapes.
A parent rushes over and with the best of intentions says those familiar words, "You're okay, stop crying." We've all heard it, and many of us have probably said it. It seems like the right thing to do in the moment, an attempt to soothe and build toughness. But what if that single, seemingly harmless phrase is quietly doing the exact opposite? What if our most common automatic responses are inadvertently planting seeds of self-doubt and emotional confusion? What if these words are shaping your child's inner voice for years to come? The words we choose as parents are powerful enough to build worlds or shatter them. In this video, we are going to explore 9 of the most common phrases that parents say. These are phrases that can cause hidden damage to a child's sense of self. More importantly, we will show you what to say instead. We will provide you with the tools to turn moments of conflict into moments of connection. You will learn how to replace automatic reactions with intentional, empowering language. This is about transforming your communication to build a foundation of trust and resilience in your child. Let's start by saying something you already know. You are a parent who wants the absolute best for your child. You're here because you care deeply about their well-being and their future. The very act of watching this video proves your commitment to mindful, conscientious parenting. The problem is that we often inherit our communication patterns without ever questioning them. Think of it this way. Your words are the tools you use every single day to help build your child's sense of self. Some tools are precise and constructive, while others, even with good intentions, can leave cracks in the foundation. This leads to a profound truth you must remember. Be careful what you say to your child, because your words become their inner voice. That internal narrator that guides them through life will echo the language they hear most often from you. To help you build a more positive inner voice, we've organized these harmful phrases into 4 distinct psychological categories. We'll look at phrases that invalidate feelings and phrases that create performance anxiety. Then we'll cover phrases that damage self-worth and those that foster dependency. For each category, we won't just tell you what not to say, we will equip you with constructive alternatives. And stick around to the end because I'm going to share a simple 5-letter acronym that will make it easy to remember all of this in a heated moment. By the end of this video, you won't just have a list of forbidden phrases, you'll have a new framework for communication that builds confidence, not fear. So let's begin with our first category, phrases that invalidate feelings. Let's start with the one we are all the most guilty of, telling our kids to stop crying. Why does this seemingly innocent command backfire so badly? When we tell a child to stop crying, the hidden message isn't one of comfort. The message they receive is that their emotion is wrong, inconvenient, or too much to handle. Crying is a natural and healthy release of overwhelming feelings like sadness, frustration, or even pain. By shutting it down, we teach them to suppress their emotions rather than understand them. Over time, this can lead to children who become adults that are disconnected from their own feelings. They learn that showing vulnerability is a sign of weakness. So, what is the alternative when your child is weeping over a scraped knee or a broken toy? Instead of telling them to stop, try narrating and validating their experience. Wow, that fall really scared you, and your knee hurts? It's okay to cry. It sounds like you're feeling really sad right now. I'm here with you. This language doesn't just permit the emotion, it actively welcomes it. It tells your child that you are a safe harbor for their big feelings. A similar damaging phrase in this category is, "You're overreacting," or "It's not a big deal." Imagine your child is devastated because their friend didn't want to play their favorite game at recess. To an adult, this might seem trivial, a tiny blip in a long day. But to a child, their social world is their entire world. When we say it's not a big deal, we are imposing our adult perspective onto their child-sized reality. This teaches them not to trust their own judgment about what is important. It can make them feel foolish for having feelings that are perfectly valid for their age and experience. The alternative is to meet them where they are. I can see this is a very big deal to you. It's hard when friends don't want to play the same thing. This simple acknowledgement validates their reality without you having to agree that the world is ending. It shows them that their feelings are real and important, simply because they are theirs. But it's not just about what we say when they're sad. The way we praise them is just as critical. There's a type of praise that many parents think is helpful, but can actually create crippling anxiety. This brings us to our second category, phrases that create performance anxiety. "You're so smart." It feels like the ultimate compliment, a wonderful thing to tell your child. However, research from psychologists like Carol Dweck has shown us the hidden danger of praising innate traits. When we praise a child for being smart, we are promoting what is called a fixed mindset. This is the belief that intelligence is a static, inborn quality that you either have or you don't. So, what happens when a child who has always been told they are smart encounters a problem they can't solve immediately? Their internal logic concludes, "If I can't solve this, I must not be smart after all." This can lead to a fear of challenges and a reluctance to try things at which they might fail. Failure becomes a threat to their entire identity as the smart one. The powerful alternative is to shift your praise from the person to the process. Instead of focusing on who they are, focus on what they did. So instead of "You're so smart," try "You worked so hard on that math problem. I love how you didn't give up." Or you might say, "That's a really interesting way you approached that drawing. Tell me about your strategy." This kind of praise fosters a growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. It teaches resilience and makes challenges feel like opportunities for growth, not tests of worth. Another phrase in this category is any form of comparison, like, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" This is perhaps one of the most toxic phrases a parent can use. It not only tells your child they are not good enough, but it also provides a live-in model of who they should be. This breeds resentment between siblings and crushes a child's individual sense of worth. They learn that your love and approval are conditional and must be won in competition with others. Imagine your child comes home with a B on a test while their sibling got an A. A comparison is tempting, but it's destructive. The alternative is to focus entirely on that individual child's journey and effort. "I see you got a B. How do you feel about that grade?" Then you can follow up with, "What did you learn from this test?" Or, "Is there anything you'd like to try differently next time?" This communicates that you value their personal growth and learning process far more than their ranking against someone else. Each child's path is unique, and our language should honor that individuality. Okay, let's take a breath. If you've heard yourself saying some of these things, please know the goal here isn't guilt, it's awareness. If you've said these things before, you're not a bad parent. You are a human parent.
The goal isn't perfection, it is progress. If these insights into the psychology of communication are resonating with you, that's what our channel is all about. Consider subscribing to join a community of people dedicated to understanding themselves and others better. We've talked about what we say when kids are sad or trying hard. But what about when they're misbehaving? The most common phrases here are also the ones that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. This brings us to our third category, phrases that damage self-worth by turning behaviors into labels. Let's look at the phrase, "You're so lazy." A child leaves their toys all over the floor, and in a moment of frustration, we let this label slip out. The problem is the word "are." When we say, "You are lazy," we are not commenting on the behavior of not cleaning up. We are defining their entire character with a negative trait. Children, especially young children, believe what their parents tell them about themselves. If they hear "you are lazy" enough times, they will begin to see themselves as a lazy person. And if that's who they are, why would they bother trying to be tidy? The key here is to always separate the child from the behavior. Address what they did, not who they are. Instead of "you're so lazy," you could say, "I see your toys are still on the floor and I need you to put them back in the box. It looks like you need some help tidying your toys. Let's do it together." This frames the task as a manageable action, not a character flaw. Remember the simple mantra, connect before you correct. A similarly deeply damaging label is "you're being a brat" or "you're being difficult." These are often used during tantrums or moments of defiance. What a child hears is not "my behavior is unacceptable," but "I am unacceptable." It assigns a malicious intent to what is often just a child's struggle with big emotions they can't yet regulate. A more empowering approach is to name the underlying struggle. "I can see you're having a hard time controlling your body right now." This acknowledges their struggle without shaming them for it. It positions you as an ally, helping them learn self-regulation, not an adversary punishing them for a character flaw. Now that we understand how labels can be destructive, let's look at how even helpful phrases can take away a child's power. This is our fourth and final category, phrases that foster dependency and helplessness. "Here, let me do it." A child is struggling to tie their shoes, build a block tower, or zip up their jacket. We're in a hurry, or we can't stand to watch them struggle, so we swoop in to help. But the message this sends is that you are not capable, and that your struggle is a problem for me. Struggle is a critical part of learning and building competence. By constantly rescuing them, we rob them of the opportunity to develop perseverance and problem-solving skills. Worst of all, we deny them the immense satisfaction of finally succeeding on their own. What can you say instead when you see your child struggling? Try offering support without taking over. "That looks tricky. I'm here if you need me. I can see you're getting a little frustrated. Would you like a hint, or do you want to keep trying on your own for a bit?" This respects their autonomy and communicates your faith in their ability to eventually succeed. Another phrase in this category is the classic "because I said so." This is a statement of power, not reason. While there are times for swift, unquestioning obedience, like in a dangerous situation, its overuse is damaging. It teaches children that rules are arbitrary and that power, not logic or empathy, is what matters. It shuts down their curiosity and their developing ability to reason. When your child asks why, it is not always a challenge to your authority.
It is often a genuine request for understanding.
Whenever possible, provide a simple, honest reason.
Instead of "because I said so," try "you need to hold my hand in the parking lot because it keeps you safe from cars." "We need to leave the park now so we can get home in time for dinner." This helps children internalize the values behind the rules, developing their own moral compass.
So, how do we put all of this together in a real-life, stressful moment?
It's one thing to understand these concepts now, but it's another to access them when your child has just spilled juice all over the new rug. This is where we can use a simple framework to guide us. Remember the 5-letter acronym I mentioned earlier? It's time to learn the PAUSE model. PAUSE stands for perceive, acknowledge, understand, support, and empower. First, perceive the feeling in both yourself and your child. Notice the anger rising in your chest and the fear or shame on your child's face. Acknowledge the emotion out loud. "Wow, that was a big spill. I can see you're startled." Then, understand the need behind the behavior. Perhaps the child was trying to pour the juice themselves, a bid for independence. Then comes S, support with validating language. "It's okay, accidents happen. It's just juice." Finally, F, empower the next step. Instead of punishing, you team up. Let's get some towels and clean this up together. This pause model transforms a moment of crisis into a lesson in responsibility, teamwork, and emotional regulation. This is a practice, not a performance. You won't get it right every time, and that's perfectly okay. We've covered invalidating feelings, creating anxiety, damaging self-worth, and fostering dependency. All 4 of these categories point to one incredible, powerful idea. Your words don't just describe your child, they help create their world. Every phrase you choose is a brick, and with these bricks, you are building the foundation of their self-esteem and their understanding of the world. Remember that parent on the playground at the very beginning of this video? The one who automatically said, "Stop crying"? Now that parent has a new tool. They know to kneel down, to look their child in the eyes, and to say, "That looks like it hurts. It's okay to be sad." That one simple shift from dismissal to validation changes everything. It turns a moment of lonely pain into a moment of shared connection. So please, do not leave this video with a heavy heart, worried about all the mistakes you might have made. That is not our goal. This isn't about what you stop saying. It's about what you start building. You have the power to build them up, one word at a time. We know this topic can bring up a lot of thoughts and feelings. Since comments can be a difficult space for these conversations, we've posted a question about this on our community tab. We would love to hear your thoughts and experiences there in a more moderated environment. Thank you for watching and for being the kind of parent who is always learning.